The tears streaming down Eleanor's face were not of sadness. They were from a feeling so deep, so mixed, that she herself couldn't name it. In front of her, a man's hand held a set of keys. They weren't old, rusty keys, like the ones to the door of the mud hut that the sun punished behind her. These were new, shiny keys, keys that promised a future that she, at 82 years old, sitting in the wheelchair that was both her companion and her prison, never thought she would have. The man wore an expensive watch, a Patek Philippe that shone as brightly as the keys, an absurd contrast to the dry, cracked earth of the backlands. He wore a white linen shirt, impeccably clean, even in this place where dust seemed to be born from the air. Eleanor looked at the keys, then at the man's face, and then at the small mud house where she had lived for the last 10 years. A decade of loneliness since her sons, one by one, left for the big city, promising to return rich, promising to fetch her for a life of a queen. The promises turned to dust, just like the land around her. The pain of that abandonment was a wound that never closed, that hurt more than her aging joints. And now this stranger, this angel with a luxury watch, was offering her what her own children had denied her, a door to open. Why? Why her? What did that man see in her, an old woman forgotten by the world and by her own family? What did he want in return? Distrust and hope fought within her chest, a silent battle as violent as the dryness of that land. This story is about how life can change when you least expect it. If you believe that kindness still exists in the world, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the unfolding of this journey. And please, comment below from which city you are watching us. It is very important for us to know how far Eleanor's story is reaching. Eleanor was not born into that poverty. There was a time, many decades ago, when her life was full of color and sound. She remembered her husband, John, a strong, hard-working man who, with much sweat, managed to buy a small farm. It wasn't a mansion in Beverly Hills, but for them, it was a palace. They had cows, chickens, a vegetable garden that produced everything. They raised their 3 sons, Michael, David, and James, with plenty on the table and love in their hearts. Eleanor taught them the value of work, honesty, and above all, family. Family is our greatest treasure, she always said, while mending the boys' pants or preparing the apple pie they loved so much. Money was tight, but never lacking. They dreamed together. John dreamed of buying another piece of land. Eleanor dreamed of seeing her sons educated, with professions that didn't require the strength of their arms. The boys, in turn, dreamed of the big city, of the cars they saw in movies, of designer clothes, and the easy life shown on television. John's death, taken by a sudden illness, was the first major blow. The land, once bountiful, began to miss his firm hands. Eleanor, with age already weighing on her, did what she could, but her strength was no longer the same. That's when the sons, now grown men, decided to sell the farm. "It's for your own good, Mom," said Michael, the eldest. "We're going to the capital. We'll invest the money, start a business. In a year, we'll come back to get you, and you'll live in a house with a pool. You'll have a maid. You'll be treated like the queen you are." The money from the sale, an amount that seemed like a fortune to Eleanor, was divided among the 3 of them. For her, they bought that small mud hut in the most isolated and cheapest place they could find, with the promise that it was temporary. They left a little money for the first few months and departed, taking Eleanor's dreams with them in their luggage. In the beginning, they called. The calls became rarer. The money stopped coming. The promises were lost in the echo of time. Eleanor survived on help from neighbors, on a small pension that barely covered her medicines. The wheelchair came after a fall, which broke her hip and her last hope of managing on her own. The abandonment was a slow poison, killing her soul little by little. She didn't understand. Where did she go wrong? Was the love she gave not enough? The sleepless nights, caring for fevers, the calloused hands from so much work? Was all of that worthless? She looked at her own hands, now wrinkled and spotted by time, and remembered how they had cradled each of her sons. How could those same children she loved so much forget her in that way? The pain was not of poverty, but of ingratitude. It was the pain of being a discarded object, an inconvenient memory in the life of luxury they perhaps had found. Eleanor's story is a reminder that the greatest value is not in money, but in the people we love. If you agree with this, please leave a like on this video. Your like shows us that we are on the right path, telling stories that matter. The man holding the keys was named Ethan. He was not an angel, but a man who, like Eleanor, knew the pain of loss. Ethan grew up in Aspen, Colorado, a city where snow-capped mountains serve as backyards for multi-million-dollar mansions. His father was a real estate mogul, a man who measured success by the balance in his bank account and the shine of the cars in his garage, which included models from Ferrari and Rolls-Royce. Ethan had everything money could buy: the best schools, the most expensive clothes, trips around the world. But he lacked the essential, the time and affection of his parents. He remembered his childhood as a succession of nannies and tutors in a huge silent house. His parents were always busy at parties, business meetings, or trips to tax havens. Money was the language of that family. Expensive gifts replaced hugs. Large checks replaced conversations. When his mother fell ill, Ethan witnessed the saddest scene of his life. She, on her deathbed, surrounded by luxury, but dying of loneliness. His father was on an unavoidable business trip. His siblings were worried about the division of the inheritance. That day, Ethan understood that the greatest poverty is not the lack of money, but the lack of love. He broke away from his family, gave up his share of the billion-dollar inheritance, and decided to use his knowledge for a different purpose. He created a foundation that not only donated money, but sought out stories, sought out people who, like his mother, had been forgotten. He traveled the world, not to luxury hotels, but to the most remote places, looking for Eleanors. He found the story of that lady through a priest from a small parish who wrote him a letter telling him about the woman abandoned by her sons. Ethan investigated. He discovered that Eleanor's sons had not only abandoned her, but were living an upper-middle-class life in a major city. Michael was the manager of a luxury car dealership. David owned an investment firm, and James was a renowned architect. They weren't millionaires, but they had more than enough money to give their mother a dignified life. They had simply erased her from their lives. That fact filled Ethan's heart with a cold fury. Their ingratitude was a mirror of the indifference that had killed his own mother. He decided he wouldn't just give Eleanor a house. He would give her something much more valuable: justice. Eleanor's journey is about to take a major turn. If you are enjoying the story and want to know what happens next, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. That way you won't miss any details, and you'll also help us continue to bring content like this, which makes us reflect on life. And tell us in the comments, do you think Eleanor's sons deserve forgiveness? We really want to know your opinion. Ethan approached, knelt to be at eye level with Eleanor, who looked at him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "My name is Ethan, Mrs. Eleanor," he said, his soft voice contrasting with his imposing appearance. "These keys are yours. They are for your new home." He pointed to the dirt road where a car was parked. "It's in the city, about 20 minutes from here. It has a garden, a comfortable bedroom, a fully equipped kitchen, and a nurse who will take care of you full-time." Eleanor's tears now flowed freely. She tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't come out, only a choked sound, a sob from someone who cannot believe what they are hearing. "But why?" she managed to whisper. "I have no way to pay." Ethan smiled, a sad smile. "You have already paid, Mrs. Eleanor. You paid with a lifetime of work and love. Consider this a gift from someone who understands the value you have." The following week, Eleanor moved. The house was more beautiful than she had ever dreamed. For the first time in years, she slept in a soft bed, took a long, hot bath, and ate a meal without worrying about tomorrow. But Ethan's twist was not yet complete. Using his contacts, he found the addresses of the 3 sons. A month later, Michael, David, and James each received a court summons. They were being sued for elder abandonment, a crime under the law. Along with the summons, each received an envelope. Inside, there was not a letter from a lawyer, but a single photograph. The image of Eleanor, frail and shrunken in her wheelchair in front of the mud hut on the day Ethan found her. The image they had tried to erase from their minds was now materialized in their hands, a silent and devastating accusation. The lawsuit became a scandal in the social circles where they lived. The story leaked to the press. The luxury car dealership manager, the successful investor, and the renowned architect were now known as the sons who abandoned their elderly, sick mother in the middle of nowhere. Their businesses were shaken, friendships were broken, and shame became their shadow. They tried to find Eleanor, but Ethan had ensured she would not be disturbed. The justice of men was on its way, but the real punishment was the mirror Ethan had placed in front of them, forcing them to face the monster they had become. Eleanor, in her garden, tending to her new roses, finally found peace. The new house was wonderful, but the real gift was knowing that someone, somewhere, had seen her. Someone recognized her value when her own family had treated her like trash. She felt no hatred for her sons, only a deep pity. They had beautiful houses, expensive cars, and full bank accounts, but they were infinitely poorer than she was. Eleanor's story shows us that true wealth is not measured in money. What would you do in Ethan's place? Would you have done the same, or would you have acted differently? Do you believe that justice was served, or did the sons deserve a second chance to redeem themselves directly with their mother? What part of the story touched you the most? Share your opinion in the comments, as your perspective enriches our community. And if this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend or family member who needs to hear about the power of kindness and justice. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, join us for more stories that inspire and transform.